most people don't really even make a decision to buy a house. They just see something driving by and go, hey, I like that.
It's probably the biggest purchase you're ever going to make in your life.
The days of just calling someone up and say, can you show me that house? Those days are numbered.
Sometimes we get so emotional as buyers that it's good to have that person that you trust work on your behalf.
Unless you put the wheels in motion, you're never really going to get to your goal.
The Den, powered by the Lyons Group, a show that explores trending topics in real estate, entrepreneurship, and personal growth. We're a small team of professionals with over $400 million in sales and nearly 2,000 successful transactions. You're listening to time-tested experts and industry leaders. Here's a refreshing look at real estate happenings and more. Welcome to The Den.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to this episode of The Den. And today we're going to be talking about the 4 stages of buying a property. Now, you could break that out into 8 or even 12, but we're going to focus on the 4 main stages and we're going to go into detail. But before I get to that, let me introduce my friends, my partners, my co-hosts, the fellow members of the Lyons Group. To my right, Paul, Hammy the Rockberry, Aspen, the Ninja Gruen, and the boss, Shannon Martin Martinez. My name is Ben. I need at least 12 stages of something, Lyons, and I'm the host of The Den today. And we are going to dive right into it. 4 stages of buying. These are things that you should consider, but why? Why should we think about considering the stages of buying or think about the process of buying? But ladies, what do you think? Why would it behoove someone to be thinking about the process of buying and kind of break it out into stages? Why would that make sense for someone to do?
Well, I think a lot of times most people, they don't really even make a decision to buy a house. They just see something driving by and go, hey, I like that. And they call on it. And there's so much to do before you get there. Or somebody's just looking online or their friend bought a house and they think, maybe I want to buy a house. I think it's important because there's a lot to know and there's a lot to do to get from, start to finish. If you break it down and you're intentional about it and you take all the steps in the proper way and you are prepared and educated, well, you're actually going to accomplish your goals.
And you're going to enjoy the process.
Yeah, because it can be really fun.
Yeah, it can be. But I think you're right. I mean, you go from, oh, my friend bought a house, so I want to buy a house. The next thing you know, you're on the racetrack and you're like, whoa, I don't really have a plan. And
you've searched 700 properties on Zillow all night through the night, deciding what you wanted, and you're ready to buy the next day,
but you're not quite ready to buy.
That's right.
So let's go through stage number 1 of the buying process, and that is the decision to purchase. And along with the decision to purchase, we'll get to the pre-qualification. But why, Aspen, why would someone take time to think about the actual decision to purchase? Like, why would that be important for somebody?
I think there's a lot of things that, especially first-time home buyers, might not realize. Like, you think, okay, I need this down payment. What that number is, I think, is kind of a misconception for some people. And then there's also things you don't know about. You don't know about closing costs. You might not know about that you're going to need an appraisal, or you might want to pay for additional inspection. So I think there's things that you just might not even realize you're going to need or want. So picking a house sounds great. And you think, okay, a lot of people think you need 20% down, not normally. Let's say you need 3 to 5% down. You're like, okay, I have that. Well, do you have a little bit of a buffer? What if you need to make some repairs after? It should be it's probably the biggest purchase you're ever going to make in your life. So it makes sense to really sit down and think about it. Now, do as I say, not as I do. I'm definitely the drive-by person. Like, oh, that looks good. And then I pretty much make a decision instantly. But that's how we've always done. And I also kind of come from the line of there's nothing you can't fix, especially because me and my husband both know how to fix a lot of these things. So we don't get too in the weeds with the other stuff. So I know, okay, this is about what it's going to cost. But whenever you're first getting started, making an actual decision of, okay, this is probably going to have some surprises along the way. Are we ready for this? Are we in a good spot mentally? Is it, if you're in a relationship, a good spot in your relationship, because it's going to be a long process and it can be a stressful process. It shouldn't be too stressful, but it can be.
Yeah, I think that's well said. I mean, you have people that don't put any thought into that. Like, where am I at in my life? Or am I about to change a career? Do I even like this area? But then they're moving to buy a house. So the actual decision component, like, yes, I want to be a homeowner, is an important part of the process because it needs to be kind of a holistic thought of where am I at in my life? And does this make sense? And it may be stressful. And I'm up for the challenge.
Hi, I'm Ben Lyons, a partner at the Lyons Group. We're dedicated to making your real estate experience the best it can be. If you're looking to buy or sell, go to sjcbroker.com and watch our informational video series. These videos break down the process and shed some light on buying or selling. While you're there, schedule a private consultation with one of our partners. We'd love to sit down, talk strategy, and give you a real advantage in today's market. You deserve the best. So take those steps, and we'll see you soon. Now back to the show.
Because we've talked about this many times. Some people just are okay renting for their whole lives, and that's told there is nothing wrong with that. But other people that want to jump to the other side of the fence, you need to have that moment where you say, okay, I am going to climb this hill and we're going to do it now type of thing. Because I think that commits you. Wouldn't you say, Shannon? I mean, at that point, you're committing to the process. Would you agree with that?
Yeah. And I think once you commit to something and you learn what steps you need to do, you're more likely to achieve your goals. If you're just kind of throwing stuff out there and just, you see those people that have been dreaming about buying a house for years, but they've never actually talked to a lender. They've never put in a loan application. They've never once, explored their options for that. They really have no idea. They're looking at the home and they're looking at the amortization schedules and saying, I can afford that. Unless you put the wheels in motion, you're never really going to get to your goal.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people get nervous they're going to get told no. But I mean, honestly, there's not a lot of no's. It really is a pretty low threshold. And a lot of people think it's so expensive to buy a house. It is similar cost to renting nowadays. With how expensive all of these other things are. You really can get into a house for very similar cost to moving into a new rental.
Yeah. And those no's, I think that you talk about, people are scared of them. It's typically not a no. It's usually it's not right now.
And
so
give you steps.
That's right. That's right. So you go to a lender and they say, well, you're going to need to pay off a little bit of debt, or you are going to need to raise your credit score, and this is how we're going to do it. It's really a process of starting. Everybody can be a yes at some point if you're committed to it, and you just start by finding out what is it that's holding you back, because usually it's not much.
Yeah.
It's a small fix. You need a cosigner, or you need down payment assistance, or you need to bring up your credit score. You need to pay off a credit card. Whatever it is, usually most people can attain that.
Yeah, in under a year, typically.
Yeah. Well, oftentimes in just a few months. So that brings us to the next part of stage one, which is the pre-qualification component. So they've made the decision. They want to move forward. And the second part of that in stage one is, okay, now what do I do? Well, let's get with the lender. And just like what you said, because there may be a not right now conversation, but here's the path. And those people that follow the path, but making the decision that you want to purchase actually will get you down the path versus just kind of willy-nilly.
And it sets some realistic expectations, because I know whenever I first started looking at houses, we were like, well, we can fix stuff. No big deal. We can fix that. We were not intimidated by having to do labor, but we had an FHA loan. So it didn't matter that we could fix it and we were willing to fix it.
The lender still
wouldn't let it. So, I think a lot of times, especially like I've noticed the younger first-time home buyers are like, oh, well, we'll just put in new flooring. We'll just, do this. But the problem is then you're looking at a bigger house that's cheaper, but you actually can't get approved for it. So it's good to know what your realistic, options are.
Yeah. And there's a lot of different programs. And our viewers probably don't know this, but I'm sitting next to the man with many talents, Mr. Paul, hand me the rock. Yeah. Keep looking around. Yeah, I'm talking to you. This gentleman right here next to me is beyond being a great father, a great husband, a businessman.
Whoa.
Well, I know.
I'm getting fired.
It's all true. It's all true.
It's all true. He's also, you were a licensed mortgage broker, a licensed real estate broker, a licensed home inspector. I mean, you
carry a lot of knowledge.
You get a lot of knowledge in that little brain up there. So I'm going to ask for this little section to come out of the brain. When a buyer is going through the buying process and they're looking to get pre-qualified, talk to us about some of the things that they should be doing. What type of lenders should they be talking about? What type of loan programs should they be considering? Just give us your thoughts.
There's different types of lenders. I'll start with that. There's brokers, and then there are in-house. People who keep the loans in-house. So usually when you have a broker who can go to a bunch of different programs, those are usually better if you're a first-time home buyer or have a low credit score or something like that. They can do not a lot of a down payment. They might have more programs for you. I think the first thing to do, because what we do as mortgage brokers is the first thing is credit score. Then after that, it's verification of employment, verification of rent or mortgage payments. So you got to go through, verify all of those things that you can afford a house, and that we actually tell you what you can afford for monthly payment. Sometimes you can afford a lot more than you should. I see that quite a bit. And other times, the no's that you guys were talking about, I saw that a lot on the mortgage side, is everybody's told me no. And then they got to us and we were like, well, we have a lot of programs. So like you were talking about doing repairs, there's programs for that. There's programs if you don't have a down payment. There's programs if you want to, put all of your money into it, pay the 20% and get the lower payments. And a lot of brokers, like our partner, we partner with
House Loans. It's our
House
preferred
Loans.
lending partner. Uh-huh.
Yeah, they have every program under the sun.
Yeah.
Down payment assistance programs,
Rehab loans.
That's the 203K.
Yeah.
So I think talking with, and everybody has their idea of what, their little knowledge of buying a house. As soon as you talk to a lender, you figure out how much you don't know.
Yeah. There's a lot of jargon that goes into it.
Yeah. And you start asking questions to the lender can say, this is probably the best for you. Or they say you are a prime candidate for renting.
My first step, even now, whenever I'm buying, I go talk to my lender first. We sit down, we have an actual long meeting. We talk about different options that we can do, because it goes from, okay, this is what you need to do to buy a house, to, okay, now we're using strategy to buy this house. Like, what are the tax implications? What is all this? So it's like a team effort with a bunch of people. Talking with a lender is not something just first-time home buyers. It should be every time you're thinking about making a move.
That's a really good point, because I think sometimes people think, well, I've bought 4 houses, my credit score is 800, I'm not going to have an issue, so I'm not worried about it. I'll go look into that afterwards. A lot of things people don't think about that we see all the time is maybe you do have perfect credit, but maybe you have things on your bank statement that are going to look not so good to that lender, and you might need to wait 3 months so that your most current bank statements don't reflect it anymore. We've seen people that say their lender gets a hold of their bank statement and says, I can see that you pay $800 every single month to the same person. What's that about? Oh, I paid child support, but it's not court ordered, so it's not. Well, it doesn't matter. They see it. They know it now. They're counting that. Or people will take, they'll say, well, I had, a lot of money in my safe that I've built up over the last couple of years, and I decided to go ahead and throw it in here in my account now so that I can buy this house and I'll have the down payment. Well, that's a problem. It's not sourced. You just put $10,000 cash, and the IRS is going, where are you getting money from? So even people that have good credit, to what you're saying right there, it's talking about strategy. It's talking about, what do I need to do to be in the best light, to get the best possible program, to get the best possible outcome, the best rate, the best terms that I can possibly get. And you may not get that if you, just because I've got a good credit score, it's not going to be a problem. You want to ask, even if you are the most desirable purchaser.
That made me think of 2 things. One is, if you're a landlord and your tenant wants to get a reduction on their rent to fix something in the house, that could screw them up a year later, because now they have partial rent, or it's not a full rental history. Or the other thing that I was thinking of was, if you are self-employed, like, you could make $1 million a year. And if you want to go for a loan, you can say, well, you have to be self-employed for 2 years.
And what's on your tax return? There's a lot of different things that come into play.
Yeah. So all of those, that's why talking to a lender is the best first step you could do.
Even if you have great credit.
Or talk to a realtor and they'll push you to a lender.
Yeah, exactly. And a lot of people go, the reality of it is, people go, I want to buy something. So I've been scrolling Zillow. I'm going to call the realtor and I'm going to go see the house. You've missed that entire opportunity to sit down with a lender and get your strategy together, understand the loan programs, and get yourself in a position where now you're ready to strike. So that is an important stage 1, which is actually mentally thinking through and committing to the process, and then going and getting with a lender to get your pre-qualification. That's all in stage 1. Stage 2 is the realtor selection and the actual property search. So we've talked about the buyer-broker agreement. That is a new thing in real estate. Even less than a year old. It came out in August of 2024. And we're still dealing with that. But it really makes sense for a buyer now to interview realtors before they engage with someone, before they go out home shopping, the days of just calling someone up and say, can you show me that house? Those days are numbered now. So anyone want to speak to that process of selecting a realtor and then also the property search component?
I like it better. I think it creates more of a little bit of a boutique experience. Yes, it's different now. It will become normal again, but it used to be like you guys were saying, people got in your cars, you went around, they met in the office, you did everything in person. It was very personable. And now it's very, I don't want to say cold, but it's very distant.
It's business.
Yeah, everything's e-signatures. We'll go see these properties, but you're looking online first. We're only looking at a few of them. There is still a lot of liability and there's still a lot of back-end paperwork and work that goes on, but the face-to-face stuff is very much less. I always tell people whenever you're buying a house, there's going to be a lot at the beginning, nothing really in the middle, and then a lot at the end again. So it can be very nerve-wracking in that middle part where maybe you're not really in touch with your realtor every day because they're working with the lender, they're working with title, they're getting all the other paperwork done and ready. So if you don't have a good relationship and trust with that person, it might just seem like they're not blowing you off, but kind of because you don't really know them.
And what should someone do to research like a realtor and set themselves up for a conversation with a realtor? I mean, what are some of the things that you
I would ask people for personal recommendations. Google's great, but everyone has good Google reviews. Ask someone you trust that has bought a house. Who did you use? Did you like them? Do you know of anyone else? And then just interview a few.
Yeah.
I agree.
Like 2, 3.
Yeah. But I'm just going to warn you. If you post on Facebook, like, hey, looking to buy a house, does anyone know a good realtor?
Right.
I'm sliding into your DMs, dude.
and 150 other realtors.
Yeah. Paul will be right there with me.
I don't think I've slid into anybody's DM.
Oh my gosh.
I have.
But I think a good point. Ask someone that you trust. Like, who would you use to do this? I mean, I do that. I say, who would you use to fix this part of your house? Or who would you use to help set up an estate or a trust?
Anything. Yeah. I take personal recommendations over anything.
Yeah.
Some people just aren't good with the online stuff too. But maybe they're really good at their craft, at what they're doing. Electricians, plumbers, whatever it might be.
Well, and two, I mean, I'll say this. When I bought my house, I used somebody else. I used Ben to be my representation, just because we can't know everything. And I think sometimes we get so emotional as buyers that it's good to have that person that you trust work on your behalf, be able to, without emotion, negotiate or think of the things that you're not thinking of, or the thing that's really important to you. I get this all the time. Something's really important to somebody, and as the professional that's small potatoes. That really is immaterial to you buying this house. So you have to overcome those hurdles, deal with that emotion. So I think somebody that you trust is the best way to do it. But I think what you're talking about, boutique, I think I'm calling it the consultations. So you call somebody up and either what?
That's what I was calling it, Paul. You stole it. He's just putting them
all
in
his
there, and then
content for the newsletter comes from you.
Oh, that's not true. He does
just unbelievable.
The officially his.
She designed it.
The newsletter is officially Paul's, though. That's all. I feel like you just store my good little ideas, and then 3 months later, you're like, I have a great idea. But I agree. Yeah, everyone's going to say the same thing. Yeah.
Where we're starting with is talking to somebody in person, not on the phone. I mean, the days of gray showings, we used to call them, is, call up, I want to see the house. We'll meet you at the house. We'll introduce ourselves at the house. I think those days are over. I think we need to get people into the office, have a good sit down, tell them this process, because it is a huge process. And you don't want somebody to fall in love with the house that you're showing them, come to find out they can't afford it.
Yeah.
All these different things. I think that consultation, or whatever Aspen called it, is the way to go.
She's trying to trade.
She has a great idea.
Yeah.
Well, I also think that, the customer is going to get a better experience if majority of times, and let's be honest, over the years, somebody picks their realtor because they saw a sign, they called on it, or they saw an ad on Zillow, they called on it, and whoever was the one that answered that call becomes their realtor, which is great. We love that. We love getting a call and going out and being able to make our case to a buyer and tell them what we can do and kind of sell ourselves to them and form a relationship with them. But that's not always for the buyer the best way to find a realtor. And they're doing that because they really haven't looked into it yet.
Mhm.
And the first person that sticks, or the first person that, has substantial contact with them, is the one that ends up getting to be their realtor. But that's not always the best for the customer. The customer's going to do better if, before they're at that point and before they're desperate to make an offer on that house with the person that just opened the door for them, to talk to a couple people. Like you said, talk to your friends, talk to your family, get some recommendations, go to those people that are suggested to you and talk to them. And you're going to resonate with somebody. You're going to have a better relationship. You're going to have a better process when you do it that way than whether, I just picked up this guy because he answered the call. And now I'm stuck with him through the entire process.
I'm stuck with Ben this whole time.
Yeah.
I've been that guy.
I got a client just answering. He's like, I was just going down and whoever answered their phone. I'm like, well, great. Worked for me, but it does the best way for you.
That's right. It does work for us. And we like that.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying for the other side, for the customer side of it.
I agree.
Do you just want to be stuck with me? Because I came out that Sunday and showed you a house. I mean, you probably do because I'm going to treat you well, but not every realtor is.
Yeah. If you get the right realtor too, they're going to be doing searches for off-market opportunities, things that are coming up, because everyone has, we're the age of information right now. Everyone has access to the information now. It's where are the extras? Where are the things that are happening behind the scenes? And if you get the right realtor, they can open some doors. Not always, but they certainly are rolling their sleeves up and trying to find those avenues for you. So that's step 2, or stage 2, is the realtor selection and the search process, which is pretty vital. And we're moving right along.
This is going to be a 2-parter.
Yeah, it's going to be 2-parter because we're cutting into our time. Stage 3 is the contract to closing. So you find a property, you love it, you end up submitting an offer, you go under contract. Let's not dive into all the details. That'll be for another podcast. But what are some of the main things you need to think about when you're under contract before you're closing? Anyone want to take that?
Inspections, appraisal,
Title work,
all the things that the lender needs. And that's one thing that nobody understands, how much the lender actually needs from you. So once you get into this,
they're going to need it 3 times.
3 times.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And right up at the end too.
Yeah.
So,
They're going to be asking for this, update the same information you gave them.
so if anybody's out there listening, when they ask you for something, get it to them right away.
Right away.
It'll save you so much heartache.
Yeah, because this process is like 30 to 45 days typically.
Yeah.
It's going to be 30 to 45 days. And in that 30 to 45 days, a lot goes on that the buyer doesn't even see.
Yeah.
Just everybody doing the background work, getting everybody the information that they need, getting everything to both sides, to the title company, to the lender. There's so much that goes on there. And that, I think, having a good broker from the step before is going to make the difference between whether you make that full 30, 45 days and actually close or not.
Yeah.
For the stress levels that you have.
That's right. Or how hard that 30 days could be. That could be very difficult.
Yeah, I almost equate it to like someone on the Disneyland ride where they're kind of just, jogging along, and then, it gets kind of fun. It's a little scary, and they know that there's all kinds of parts and people making this move and making this fun, but they don't know what is really going on behind the scenes. And then next thing you know, they're at the end of the ride. And that's, for a buyer, a pretty good analogy, because there is all this movement happening, but they're just like, let me get there. Right.
I think that's why the consult is so important too, because whenever.
Good idea.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, we actually have really good buyer's guides that if you go with any of us, we can walk you through the process and you'll have a tangible thing to flip through, because you are going to hear so much terminology that you have no idea what it is. You're going to hear it at the beginning and you're going to hear it in the contract. And sometimes it's really good for your realtor just to be like, this is all about the appraisal. We're going to go over this again. Because really, your realtor should be going over each step of the process and your options with you the whole time. So we might give an overview of it when we're going over the contract. But really, you want someone to sit down with you and step by step it when you're in that process. Because we have the inspection. We have the appraisal. You have to get the insurance, all that work that has to go, the title work. But the inspection in itself is a process. So we can name all these things, but actually sitting down and going over the process of, okay, we're in the inspection period. Here's what to expect. Here's what we can do. I think that kind of what sets people apart.
Process within the process. And there's layers to processes in this. And speaking of that, so we need to move to stage 4, which is after you close, there's a post-closing portion.
It's a small world in my head now. And
you're welcome, Paul Berry. Yeah. But the 4th stage is like after you actually close, now what do you do? And what should you be thinking about as a buyer? Because a lot of people don't plan on the maintenance of their home, or, maybe discovering how to, where's the main shutoff is to the water, because inevitably you're going to have to do that at some point.
I still have a light switch to nowhere, and I've lived there for 4 years. Don't know what it does.
Yeah.
But it's there.
Mm-hmm.
So you should be asking some of those questions maybe before you close, but right after, certainly while you're still in contact with the other realtor and potentially the sellers, is, hey, let me kind of go through the house and figure out what's there.
But here's what's not to do. 2 years after you close, call up and say, we had a breaker go out.
What are you going to do about that?
You missed it.
Yeah.
or realtor, how are you going to fix this for me?
Yeah. So there's immediate action that needs to happen after closing.
I think so.
And what would you say would be some of the important things to do, Paul?
After closing?
Yeah.
I think that you should be doing that in the inspection phase.
Yeah.
Figuring out exactly what you have. But I think making sure everything is running right, making sure that you have
when you're
a
actually
good understanding when you're living in the house.
Yeah. Planning on maintenance.
Well, the other thing is maintenance, your filters, if you knew something was wrong or going wrong at the when you bought the house, maybe start saving up or planning on repairs. Water heaters, appliances, those types of things have shelf lives or have life expectancy.
Yeah.
Yeah, because there's a big difference between being a renter and never having to think of those things and moving over to being a owner. And now you have to think about, don't wait till it breaks.
Yeah. Even if you're
think ahead.
Buying somewhere with irrigation, you got to flush that irrigation at the end of the year. There's just a lot of stuff that goes into home ownership that you might not even think about, and just getting familiar with all houses are different. They all have quirks. Get familiar with it. There's going to be weird stuff. You're going to have questions when the taxes come up. It's okay to reach out, because let's say something does break. We're probably not going to be able to fix it for you, but we can.
No, but we can help.
We can tell you who to use.
That's right.
Who's a good, reliable person and what to look for.
Yeah.
Yep. Excellent advice. And there you've heard it. The 4 stages of buying and why it's important to you. You don't want to just end up on the racetrack without a plan. You need a strategy. You need to make the decision to commit to the buying process first. Get pre-qualified. That's the first stage. The second stage is you want to select a realtor that is going to work well with you and also perform your search. And then the third stage is the contract to close. There's a lot involved there. As we indicated, we could spend an entire episode just on that part of the process. And then the 4th stage is after you close as a homeowner, be thinking about the things that'll be coming up that need maintenance. Understand your home. Every home is different. They all have different personalities. Really understand your home and what you need to be prepared for. So thank you for listening to this episode of The Den. It's been a great conversation. Fantastic. I mean, gosh, we condensed a lot into 30 minutes. But if you like our content, please like and subscribe our YouTube channel. Go to our Facebook page. You can go to sjcbroker.com and schedule a personal consultation. I like that, consultation, with any one of us here at the Lyons Group. We'd love to sit down with you, whether you're buying or selling, residential or commercial. We can give you an advantage in today's market. Thank you for listening to this episode of The Den. We'll see you next time.
Thank you for listening to this episode of The Den, powered by the Lyons Group. Hit the subscribe button to keep informed and check the show notes below for direct links to our buyer and seller video series. The buyer and seller video series can give you an inside track on taking the right steps in real estate. If you'd like to learn more about the Lyons Group or to schedule a consultation, go to sjcbroker.com. Complex markets require complex strategies. The Lyons Group can give you a true advantage in any market. Whether you're buying or selling, residential or commercial, contact us directly at sjcbroker.com. We're time-tested experts with a client-first approach, and we'll see you next time in The Den.